Okay. I'm David Kahn, and I have been affiliated with Yad Eliezer for many, many years, probably over 2 decades. I first met Rav Wiesel in New York in the early 1980s and hosted him for a parlor meeting in my apartment in Manhattan. And after moving to Israel in 1988, was active in the organization. Uh, we used to distribute chickens all over Yerushalayim, a convoy of cars of friends of ours. Back when Yad Eliezer was a small organization and nowhere near the size and scope of what it is today.
Great. Trying to think of what else we spoke about last time in terms of, how your feeling of, the kind of integrity of the place and its leadership in it.
Right, okay. I was drawn to Yad Eliezer because of the integrity of Rav and Rebbetzin Wiesel, the fact that they were so concerned about keeping overheads low, both then when the organization was small and as the years progressed and the organization became larger and larger. Today, Yad Eliezer has a budget in excess of $22 million. How they were very, very keen on keeping as much money as possible for recipients and as little as possible for maintaining the organization and for overhead. That was particularly important to me because I know that a lot of organizations, unfortunately, have large overheads and not all money goes to where it should.
Excellent. So, I was thinking back in my mind, I told a story, I might be able to make two videos out of this, one for the general population, and then the next topic we talk about might, if I could get her email to be targeted to just to, Anglos living in Israel, then we'll use that other message. But let's say, I'm just trying to think of as a conclusion to this, so you talk about how you got involved and why you get integrity. I don't know if there's any, patient remark you might want to make about, place, if you're looking for a place to donate what you can do, still good, or whatever, however you might want to say it in your own words, just to kind of sum up this one, and then we'll go on to the next topic.
Okay. I think it was important to me as a relatively young Oleh that when I came here, although I was very excited about living in Israel and making my way here and finding a job and finding a community, even finding a wife, that I also be involved, as I was in the States, with Chesed organizations. And Yad Eliezer appealed to me, first of all, because I was familiar with them already from the States, but also because their whole approach to doing Chesed was based on having a lot of volunteers and not creating some gigantic professional organization, but really employing a lot of people on a volunteer basis who would help them and be growing in a way that was organic. And they started with Yerushalayim and spread out to other cities where there was the greatest need for the indigent population, and today there's no shortage of those kind of communities. There's almost 700,000 kids that are living under the poverty line and don't have enough food to eat on a regular basis.
Right. So now I guess if we can zero in on that very specific talk that we had about.
Right.
You articulated very well about how you started to say already about how when you come to Israel and you get involved in the community and there's no Sunday and you kind of figure
Right.
made it. That
Right. Okay. So let me talk about that. So I think there's a feeling when Olim make Aliyah and they get settled in this country, they are very keen on adjusting, very keen on fitting in, and but many of them remember that they had an active life of chesed in the country that they came from. I know I did, and I know it was very important for me to get involved here in an organization that could express, my feeling for helping out and help me to give something back to the country, the community in which I live. To express, a Torah ideal of tzedakah and of chesed without having the vehicle to do it is pretty meaningless. You can write checks, but that doesn't take too long. The idea of getting involved, the idea of affiliating with an organization that essentially does what we believe should be done in the Torah, according to the Torah, of giving tzedakah, of doing chesed. In my mind, there was no organization like Yad Eliezer that did that. There are a lot of chesed organizations in this country. There's no question. There are even a lot of chesed organizations that are involved in feeding the poor, but I don't know of any other organization that has focused as much as it has on bringing volunteers together to be involved in the act of chesed, whether it's distributing food, whether it's collecting food to be distributed, whether it's the various programs that Yad Eliezer has created in terms of the food that it distributes on the Chagim and the infant formula and the Big Brother programs and all the elements that make Yad Eliezer what it is today and why it has succeeded in becoming probably the biggest food distribution and poverty reducing organization in this country, in Israel. It has to do with the fact that the organization not only takes in checks and buys food, but it really brings people together to be actively involved in distributing the food and being part of the act of tzedakah, the act of chesed.
Great. There's just one more element that I remember we talked about that you had articulated about why it is sort of psychologically, sociologically that Olim find themselves often not involved because they're too busy.
Right. Okay. So let me say something about it. There's a tendency, and it's probably very normal for Olim who come here to be focused on trying to create a place for themselves in a particular community. Sometimes that has a negative effect on their looking outward and seeing what the situation is in the country in general, and the need on the part of a very large percentage of the underclass that exists here for help. It's a challenge because in the process of wanting to become a real member of the community here, one begins to understand that there's a lot of communities here, and you're happy if you fit into one. The Anglos like to hang with the Anglos, and the Russian community wants to be together with other Russian Olim, and the French want to be with their own community. And you begin to realize that Israel's not just one big happy family dancing a hora together. That's just not the way it works. Communities tend to Olim tend to be drawn to particular communities. The Anglo community, for instance, is concentrated, as we all know, in several cities or neighborhoods, such as Bet Shemesh and Efrat and Jerusalem and Ra'anana, and there really is the potential to isolate yourselves within those communities. Unfortunately, or actually fortunately, because those communities tend to be relatively well off, you can insulate yourself from the reality that exists in the rest of the country, and as a result of that, become immune to the incredible need there is for the work of an organization like Yad Eliezer in terms of distributing food and for the Chagim for on a daily basis, and you can become immune to that in the process of trying to just fit in within a community and to make it in your adopted country. I am very happy that Yad Eliezer exists in order to bring Olim out of their small sort of insular environment and to open them up to the need that exists for tzedakah and chesed in Israel, in terms of, first of all, making the community, the Olim community here aware of the need, and then giving the Olim that live here the tools in which to participate in trying to alleviate poverty and hunger, which really does exist on a widespread scale here. So I think that from the standpoint of allowing Olim to broaden their perspective once they get here and once they live here and have acclimated to their community wherever it is they live, Yad Eliezer is fantastic and plays a fantastic role in helping them to see the underside, unfortunately, of Israel, and to do something about it and to contribute their time and their money to alleviating poverty and the hardship that exists amongst a pretty large class of people here that just do not have the means and the capability for even putting food on their tables.
That's great, David. A wealth of stuff to cut and snip from. I'm going to probably cut it down to 2.5 minutes, but I have great many, really excellent, right? A lot to choose from.
All right, if you want to, do something else, just let me know. Now, how do we actually now record this?
Okay. Yeah, okay, so now is there any button that says stop or finish or?
Yeah, there's a stop button, so let's press